Thank you, Sanaji. I'm glad to share with you this podium because we have been together in the JNUTA AC in 2000. JNU Executive Council.
Getting your first hand in education of politics in education and universities.
So that is a great opportunity for me, and also to speak here on equal opportunity. That is what the mandate given to me by my friend Avinash. Let me begin with a small note, which many may not agree, but I think that way it has a reason for to think in that direction. See, if you look at the entire attack, what is going on in JNU, I feel it is one of the regions, maybe JNU has been producing voices, marginalized voices, is one of the reasons to have the attack by the current dispensation right now. Seems to be one of the reasons to me. Why I am saying this with two reasons. One day I was standing on the terrace of the electricity block when I was education director. There was a demonstration going on by the students, and one security guard, you can imagine, comes and he immediately tells us, "Ye sab SC/ST student hai, and inke khilaf kuch kar bhi nahi sakte." This is the statement given by the security guard of JNU. That clearly shows that there is a administration has a feeling that there is a rising voice of marginalized section in JNU. Therefore, how to suppress it is one of the reasons. And let me, with this note, let me put it very simply. When I look at the equal opportunity, I look at three points. One is the access to the opportunity as a whole from outside the system. If I take a JNU system, and then whether there is a access to the opportunity within the system or not, that is the second point. And third, even if there is access to the marginalized section by some means as an opportunity, whether that can be sustained or not within the system. These are three factors which probably makes a much difference to the life of a marginalized student or a teacher. And where the attacks right now is number one, the moment we say that whether there is access to the system or not, probably we look at the reservation roster to the student and roster for the faculty. And the current dispensation you look at, not that necessarily it initiates from the government all the time. The whole system of roster which was attacked and converted into the department-wise started within from the PH. So it's not that it started from the government or it may be a systematic design also, I'm not saying that, but it starts from within the system of the university and then goes outside and government takes it up and then everything is derailed. That whether this marginalized section comes or not, this is how it begins. And secondly, if you look at the way the entrance examination was put, that we have been fighting, that JNU has been fighting that everybody has to clear by 50%, though now they said, it's a well-designed frame to deprive marginalized sections from the equal opportunity. So these are the current dispensation which they are trying to deprive opportunities to the marginalized sections. And look at all designs what is going on currently now. I personally feel that the marginalized section is the most sufferer of that. Now, look at the admissions, what happened. Everybody knows, I don't need to repeat it. Last year, how many admissions? And especially, by 50%, many students could not get it. And that is what we suffer currently. And the second is, look at, did this government created a public university within this? अरे आप दीनदयाल उपाध्याय के नाम से एक सरकारी यूनिवर्सिटी खोल देते, कौन मना कर रहा है? At least people coming from the marginalized section could have get opportunity to have admission in the government university. 5 साल में खोल देते. I don't mind दीनदयाल उपाध्याय कर देते ना. So now the question is, you don't want to do that because the moment government institution comes, the marginalized section will definitely come into that. So this is one way of systematically depriving them opportunity to come to. Now, the next case comes, yes, last many years the way the private universities are coming. I know the government, UP government said, okay, we'll pay for their fee, for engineering especially I know that the government will pay the fee of the student coming from marginalized section. And therefore the private university or institutions for engineering, they started giving admission to marginalized students. Fine. But the question is, if the fee is not paid at the right time, they are harassed. And many of them are forced to quit and leave. So it is one way, you are saying that you are giving access to the system, but at the same time other means you are denying them. So it is a public forum you are showing, but in fact at the level of implementation it is not happening at all. So where is the equal opportunity for them? This is one. And second, if you look at within the system, see this subversion of the entire democratic function of the university system, it really depriving equal opportunity to the marginalized. Look at any system of the university, is the representation for them in the executive council, academic bodies, is the key question. Leaving JNU far apart, because JNU had its own mechanism of doing it. I remember when there was a nomination, one faculty from marginalized section used to be nominated in JNU. But that is not happening across the country, all universities. Even today, elected representative, we make it sure that somebody is representing that marginalized section. We make it sure. But these are extra constitutional measures which we take at our level. But the current dispensation, even they are not ready to implement, take further the constitutional provisions, forget about extra constitutional, which is mandatory and required at the time. Because only constitutional frame mechanism will not going to provide equal opportunity to the marginalized section. We have to go beyond that. So, but currently, the way the public funding is being withdrawn, if you look at JNU engineering 25,000 feet today itself. JNU has been the only institution where marginalized section with their limited resources has been able to take their education. If public funding is withdrawn, and then you have to generate resources, take loan, that is largely going to deprive education and access to the marginalized sections at large. This is what is the real worry. And in addition to that, even if you look at the democratic functioning and subversion of the democratic functions, in addition to that, there are also the marginalized section needs opportunities, equal opportunities for sustaining it even if they come to the system is equally important. Right? Now, supervision, if you look at very closely at the micro level, what seems is that mostly some of the faculty really has been or have been supervising students coming from the marginalized sections. The limit put there, not that everybody will come forward. I am very frankly putting it here. In that scenario, the limit of 864 is also coming as a deterrent for them. Those who are willing to supervise them, they have been kept by that limit. Those who don't come forward to supervise them, so ultimately the marginalized section again going to be deprived of this access. So within the system, whether they can sustain or even if you get admission, whether you will get opportunity to carry forward your opportunity which has got or not is equally important. And especially the funding issue, if they don't have a hostel, what to do? They really need the support. Look at Rajiv Gandhi Fellowship. Now students are not getting it very regular basis. They are struggling for it. One, अरे उसका भी नाम आप बदल देते लेकिन उसको देते तो सही कम से कम ठीक से उसको भी दिन दाल बाजा कर दीजिए पर दे तो दीजिए ना. At least they sustain. And the withdrawal of non-net fellowship, if you look at that, is really going to adversely affect the marginalized section. And where to talk of the equal opportunity? So therefore, if looking at all these, what I find is the struggle is a long way to go, and wherever we have reached, at least if you look at in past few years, we have reached a level that they get access to the system. Probably we have not been able to maintain within the system the accessibility, maintain the sustainability of the accessibility, but at least we have been able to provide them access to the system by means of reservation and roster. We should have gone to the step ahead, but probably we are going in the backward direction right now. That is the real sense which I feel. I am really worried of, and most of us really are worried of that it is being taken off. And that, not only that, even coming with the system, that this is what the government level and the functionaries of the university, but at the teachers level we have many things to do as well. If you look at it, now the question is, look at the curriculum. I am putting it very plainly, that the kind of background students come at times. It's not that they are very poor, not talented. The question is the kind of background they come with. They have already been deprived of the opportunities. Do we have a mechanism to make it up or not? Only establishment of an equal opportunity cell is not going to serve any purpose, because this is also part of the university system, and there is no democratization of that institutional mechanism as well. And the people sitting there really are not serving the purpose as well. So as a whole, there is a pressure from the government to deprive, and within the system there is no support. So really for equal opportunity we need to do a lot. With this struggle what we are doing currently, for not only for the equal opportunity but overall democratic traditions which are being subverted by the government, we are fighting. But along with that, this equal opportunity is an important point which we should take up. Thank you very much.